Can we begin, Prabhu, or what?
Yeah, we can start, Maharaj.
Okay. Om Jnanatirmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurun Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. All right, so we welcome everyone to our Bhakti Vaibhav study, and we're on the 5th canto, Vedic Cosmology. And we've been hearing about Bhumandala. And we heard about, in the beginning, we heard about Jambudvip, and how Jambudvip was divided into 9 divisions after the 9 sons of Bharat Maharaj. And in the center of Jambudvip, of course, was Mount Meru. And Mount Meru plays a very important role in Bhumandala. So then we heard about the Ganga, how it comes down, flows through, comes out, comes from, first of all, from the hole in the covering of the universe, it enters. Lord Brahma offers his respects to the Ganga, and then comes to the Saptarishis, and then, first of all to Dhruvaloka, and then to the Saptarishis, and then to the moon planet, and then on to Mount Meru, and then falls down Mount Meru to the tops of the mountains and flows out into the outer regions of Jambudvip into the saltwater ocean, because saltwater ocean is surrounding Jambudvip. And then we were hearing, just in the last class, we heard about Bhumandala and the different islands of Bhumandala, there were 7 islands, and they were under the care of, they were given to the different sons of Priyavrata Maharaj. Priyavrata Maharaj, of course, was responsible for dividing Bhumandala into these 7 different islands. And we heard how in the outermost island is called Pushkar Dweep. And on Pushkar Dweep, there's a mountain which goes around right through the middle of Pushkar Dweep, goes right round in a circular manner, just as Pushkar Dweep is circular. And so the mountain, Manasotara mountain, goes around Pushkar Dweep. And we were told how the sun god rides his chariot around Manasotara mountain. And the sun god is, he's not riding directly on top of the mountain, but there's a nice cushion of cosmic wind which supports the chariot. And he has a very wonderful chariot, right? You know, we have four-wheel drive and we have two-wheel drive, but we don't really, you know, we don't see too much of one-wheel drive. Maybe you go to the circus or something, or somebody, some entertainment, there may be somebody riding one-wheeled bicycle. But Maharaj Priyavrata, after the sun god, he had also one-wheeled chariot. So the sun god has a one-wheeled chariot which goes around this Manasotara mountain. And there's some photographs also of one-wheeled chariots. They have replicas of the sun god's chariot. In Sringeri, for example. Sringeri means the Shankaracharya Mutt in South India. It's a quiet place. I went there many years ago when I was when I was traveling with the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust Library Party. I was with Mahavishnu Swami, and we were traveling around India, and we had the opportunity to go up there to Sringeri and introduce some of Prabhupada's books there. They have an ashram, they train Brahmins there. So there was a photograph of the sun god's chariot there. The sun god's chariot. Well, they had not a photograph. There's actually is a chariot there, and they do a ritual one day in the year. Every year they do a ritual with that sun god's chariot. And so the sun god's chariot, you know, there's the sun god has his chariot driver, Arunadev, and it's driven by 7 horses. Of course, the dimensions of the chariot are just huge. You know, the yoke on the chariot is hundreds of yojanas. Just inconceivable. Of course, the whole thing is inconceivable to our limit. We're just like tiny ants, little insects. You know, what can little insects know about our life? In the same way, what do we know about the life of these higher beings on the higher planets, on these regions of the universe which we don't have the opportunity to actually go and visit? But by the grace of the Vedic literature, we have the opportunity to hear about them. And it's very wonderful, very amazing. I was hearing today, there's a reference from Tulsidas's Ramcharitmanas. Now Tulsidas, he's about the same time as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's like about the 16th century, 15th century. Lord Chaitanya was 1486, he appeared. So Tulsidas, I don't know quite when, maybe he came a little bit before, but he's 15th century. So he'd written in his Ramcharitmanas, he'd written about Hanuman, how Hanuman wanted to go to the moon, to get to the moon. And he described the distance to the moon. And he described the distance to the moon as Yugam Sahasra, something like that. It was Yuga, and the Yuga means a Divya Yuga, and Sahasra means 1,000 Divya Yugas. So he described the distance, and when you calculate that distance in terms of kilometers, it's almost exactly the same as the modern day figure for the distance between the earth and the sun. So the figure which is given there by Tulsidas in his book 500 years ago compares almost exactly with modern day scientific research. So what is the value of the scientific research? Simply they're confirming what is already there in the Vedic literature, what is already known from the past by these learned authorities, by these saintly persons. All right, so we're, I also heard today, I heard one letter which Srila Prabhupada wrote to Swarup Damodar Das, who later on became Bhakti Swarup Damodar Goswami. So Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, or as he was initiated by Srila Prabhupada, he was Swarup Damodar Das. He headed up the Bhaktivedanta Institute for the movement. And Prabhupada personally instructed him in how to preach and to organize programs for the scientists of the world, and to bring them to Mayapur and to our temples, and to educate them about the teachings of the Vedic literature. So in one letter which Srila Prabhupada wrote to Swarup Damodar Prabhu, he told him, he said, now you PhD scientists, you should work together to understand this 5th canto and to understand the cosmology there. And he said, we want to construct our temple in Mayapur to display the different features which are described there in the 5th canto. And Prabhupada mentioned 4 things which should be explained by the exhibit in the temple in Mayapur. And Prabhupada talked about how day and night, the formation, the arrangement of the day and the night in different parts of the universe, and the phases of the moon. And then also there was eclipses, and the movements of the sun and the different planets. Oh, the seasons, that was it. So the days and nights, the seasons, the eclipses, and the phases of the moon. Prabhupada said, we will make an exhibit in our temple in Mayapur, and he said it will attract people all over the world to come and see the Vedic presentation on these things, because it's such important information. No other religion presents such scientific knowledge. So it's a very powerful preaching strategy which Srila Prabhupada has. And it's based on this information from the scriptures. There was also one saint in the Ramanuja Sampradaya from just only 150 years ago, and he did research, and he was particularly concerned about one statement in the Mahabharata where it described that the world was like a rabbit and two leaves. So he could not understand. But then, by the grace of Krishna, it was revealed to him that when he turned the rabbit and the leaves upside down, it was an almost exact replica of the world, of the planet Earth. And you could see the northern hemisphere and with Africa and Asia and Europe, and then the 2 Americas. It was all there in the drawing. So he got that realization. And then later on, this man, who it was renounced sannyasi in the Sri Sampradaya, he drew a picture of the universe, of the different features of the cosmic manifestation. He drew an illustration. It's a big sheet of paper. And if you go to Melkoti, have you been to Melkoti? Any of you been to Melkoti? It's a 1,000-year-old temple. I had the opportunity to go there 2 years ago.
Yes, Mother.
You've been there? Good. Yeah, Lord Nrsingadev, of course, is there, and other deities also. Ramanujacharya had stayed there for some time. Anyway, this man, 150 years ago, he drew the picture of the different features of the universe. And the picture is there in the temple. It's all framed and preserved, and it's in the temple. And there's also a temple in his village, because he had his own, maybe the local people built a temple in his honor, or I don't know. But anyway, in his village where he's from, which is not far away in that area, they also have that same picture which he drew. And the information is all straight from this section of the Bhagavatam. The different divisions of Jambudweep, and then Bhumandala, and the different planets and so on. So it's very interesting, very powerful information for all of us. I'm very glad to have this opportunity to study it all with you. Gives me a chance to think more about it. We have one presentation here. Let me share the screen. Can you all see this?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah, okay. Okay, here's the picture, yeah. All right, so here's the picture. You can see here, this is Bhumandala. And here in the center here, this is Meru Mountain. You can see part of Meru Mountain goes into the ground. I think 16,000 yojanas goes into the ground. And 84,000 yojanas are up. And here, holding up, Bhumandala is Ananta Shesh. Let me close the door. It gets a bit drafty in the night, and the cold air, the big change. So here, over here, you see also Lokaloka mountain, which goes right round Bhumandala, right? And here's the sun planet. Over here you have the moon, and the different planets in the solar system. And then up here you have Dhruvaloka, and then you have Maharloka, and then Janaloka, and then Tapaloka, and Satyaloka, right? And then you come to here you have the different coverings of the universe, and how they get thicker with each layer. Right? So this is one kind of illustration. I'm not able to read everything in it. My eyes are already finished. Brahman and Vaikuntha planets, spiritual world. Okay, so outside you have the spiritual world. This is one universe. The bottom
Maharaj,
here, this is the Garbhodak ocean. Huh?
Maharaj, you can zoom in. You can zoom.
I can zoom?
Then you can, yes, Maharaj. Use the control button and with a right click of your mouse, you can go up and down.
Use the control button. I'm on a Apple computer.
Yeah, so you will have the control CTRL button.
It's command button, command, Apple. The command button, Apple button.
Command button, huh?
Command plus and command minus. Zoom out, zoom in.
Oh. What are all these things coming up? So what do I do, Nandakishore? Command button and what else?
Yeah, plus. Command plus to zoom in and command minus to zoom out.
No, it didn't do anything.
The Apple button, Apple.
Command plus, but nothing happens.
You'll have to press it together, Maharaj. Command button and plus.
Yeah, I'm doing
the sign plus.
I'm doing it together.
Or do you have the control button also, CTRL?
Yeah.
With the control button and plus, you can increase.
No, cannot. Not on mine.
This is PowerPoint, Guruman. It's in PowerPoint. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I think we can exit the slideshow and then zoom in by putting manually the percentage, like 200%.
Really?
Yeah.
How do I do that?
Press escape, Guru Maharaj, that will exit the slideshow, end show, yeah, the end show.
Then?
Now there will be the percentage there.
Prabhuji, you need not have to do that. On the below, on the right side, there is also plus minus.
Minus and plus, Guru Maharaj, where it's 110%, on the extreme right below.
On the extreme right?
Below,
Right,
it shows
corner down, Maharaj. On the extreme right corner down.
Down?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
If we move
there is a plus.
Yeah.
You can increase there.
Yeah, if we move that circle in the bar to the right, we'll zoom in.
Oh,
A small
okay.
circle
Now,
between the plus and minus.
so what should I, 200 maybe?
No, don't do there anything, Maharaj. It will be too big. You will not be able to control that. You better go down.
Well, it's 200, 100?
No, you don't do anything there, Maharaj. Okay, in the percentage you put 140.
140.
Not here, Maharaj. Below, yes, that's right.
Okay. 140.
Oh, that's going to reduce. It's already 200 you had.
140, okay.
240, Maharaj. 240.
240. It's not still. Oh, yeah, now it's coming. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, you can do that.
Now,
that's right.
but still, the thing is not focused that we could read it so well.
Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah, the typing is not clear. Anyway, thank you for teaching me how to how to do this. Now, anyway, you can see the planets. Here's the sun, and here's Meru, and this must be the moon, and then Venus, Mars, Saturn, Mercury. What is it? This one?
Is it Jupiter, Maharaj?
It is Jupiter, Maharaj.
Is it Jupiter? Okay. The Jupiter. Okay, right. And then Dhruvaloka, I said all these ones. I knew all these, Dhruvaloka. Right? And over here, they're saying this is, what does it say?
It is Bhumandala.
Bhumandala.
Bhurloka.
Bhuloka, okay.
Yeah. And then 28 hellish planets.
Oh, 28, below that, at the bottom, below that, at the bottom here, 28
Yes,
hellish
Maharaj.
planets, okay. All right, so we just about got everything. And you can see over on this side, this is more detailed, the different islands here. In the center, you have Jambudweep, surrounded by the saltwater ocean, and then Plakshadweep, surrounded by sugarcane ocean, Salamali Dweep is surrounded by liquor ocean, Kushadweep, surrounded by clarified butter ocean, Kronchadweep, surrounded by the milk ocean, Shakadweep, yogurt ocean, and Pushkaradweep, clear water ocean. And then, outside that, we have, well, in the middle of Pushkaradweep, you can see Manasotara mountain is running right round here. This Manasotara mountain range, highlighted up here, which goes right round. And in the middle, in the 4 different sections of the Manasotara mountain, you have the residence of the different demigods. Here's Indra, Devadam, residence of Indra, Vibhavari, the residence of the moon god, over here the residence of Varuna, Nimlocha, and then in the bottom, Samyamani, the residence of Yamaraj. And so these are all mentioned here. Okay. So, okay, then next we have, this is on, well, we'll discuss this later as we go on. Uttarayana and Dakshayana, that's going to be discussed. Okay, let's see. The movements of the sun, chapter 21. Okay, I'll read this chapter overview. This chapter informs us of the movements of the sun. Of course, there's different theories. You know, in the Vedic concept, we say the sun is moving, but the modern theory is that the sun is in the center of the universe, and all the planets revolve around the sun. And the earth, they also consider the earth also to be revolving around the sun. But that's not what Srimad Bhagavatam says. Srimad Bhagavatam says that the earth is in the center and everything is revolving around the pole star. So here, this is going to be discussed about the movements of the sun. The sun is not stationary. It is also moving like the other planets. The sun's movements determine the duration of night and day. So that was one of the things Prabhupada wanted to be explained in the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium, the duration of the night and day. And when the sun travels north of the equator, it moves slowly during the day and very quickly at night, thus increasing the duration of the daytime and decreasing the duration of night. Similarly, when the sun travels south of the equator, the exact opposite is true. The duration of the day decreases and the duration of night increases. The entire Kala Chakra, or Wheel of Time, is established on the wheel of the sun god's chariot. This wheel is known as Samvatsara. So Samvatsara is like Kala Chakra, the wheel of time. It's the wheel of the chariot of the sun god. The chapter can be divided into 3 subdivisions. First of all, the orbit of the sun. Then description of the sun god's chariot and worship of the sun god. Just a short chapter, only 19 verses here in this chapter. All right, so let's see. Oh, I have to. All right, so one of the things which to be discussed about the day and the night, and we know the lengths of the day and the night change. In the winter time, we have a short day and a long night. In the summertime, we have the long day and the short night. And so it's explained by these terms, Uttarayana and Dakshinayana. Is everybody able to see the PowerPoint? Is it okay?
Yes, Maharaj.
You can see Maharaj. Okay, good. All right. So, a reference from the Linga Purana. During Uttarayana, Dhruva looses the ropes down. So here's Dhruvaloka. Here's Dhruvaloka, you can see, and there's the sun, and you see the sun moving down. So Dhruva looses the ropes during Dakshinayana. And during Uttarayana, Dhruva pulls the ropes up. So Uttarayana is when the sun moves north. You can see the sun moving north, moving up the rope here. Good graphics, huh? So when Dhruva looses the ropes, Dakshinayana, they become longer. So then the chariot moves into inner tracks, day after day, for 180 days. In other words, for half a year. And when that happens, the radius of the orbit decreases. And because the radius of the orbit decreases, the circumference of the orbit decreases. And therefore the speed of the sun has to increase. The speed of the sun, 2 pi r over 24 hours. So the circumference of the orbit decreases. So the speed of the sun also decreases, increases. The speed of the sun increases. Oh, this it keeps changing. We're in Dakshinayana now. Of course, when it's in Uttarayana, the speed, if the circumference increases, the speed will have to increase. And if the circumference decreases, the speed will also decrease. So here's Dhruvaloka, down here is Mount Meru, and here's the sun. And you can see that it's like it's described to be like an oil pressing device, which is used later on. They give that example, the connection between Dhruvaloka, or the pole star, the sun planet, and Mount Meru, and how the sun is moving. So some nice, it's mentioned here. Well, I'll just read this to you. The Supreme Personality of Godhead continued, "My dear Dhruva, I shall award you the glowing planet known as the pole star which will continue to exist even after the dissolution at the end of the millennium. No one has ever ruled this planet, which is surrounded by all the solar systems, planets and stars. All the luminaries in the sky circumambulate this planet, just as bulls tread around a central pole for the purpose of crushing grains. Keeping the pole star to their right, all the stars inhabited by the great sages like Dharma, Agni, Kashyap and Sukra circumambulate this planet, which continues to exist even after the dissolution of all others. From Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 9th chapter, verse 20. And then the living entities residing on Sumeru mountain are always very warm, as at midday, because for them the sun is always overhead. Srimad Bhagavatam 5:21, verses 8 to 9. So for people residing on Mount Meru, the sun is always overhead. It doesn't appear to be overhead in this diagram, but actually it's not drawn to scale. You can note also how Mount Meru is tapering and the sun planet is above it's not resting on Bhumandala, it's above Bhumandala, and according to the seasons, according to how Dhruva pulls on the rope, sometimes the sun comes up and sometimes goes down. Sometimes, in other words, sometimes the sun increases its height and decreases the radius. And sometimes, so Uttarayana is going north and Dakshinayana, of course, is going south. So this is when the sun goes south, then the day is reduced and the nights are longer. And when the sun comes up north, the days are longer and the nights are shorter. So summer and winter, they're experienced in different ways in different parts of the planet. But for Mount Meru, people on Mount Meru, they're always warm because the sun is always overhead. Verses 7 to 16 give a description of the daily movements of the sun. The sun's path on Manasatara mountain. The sun travels over all sides of Manasatara mountain in a circle with a circumference of 95.1 million yojanas. On top of Manasatara mountain are the residences of 4 demigods in the 4 directions. So we saw this already in Mount Meru, and on Mount Meru they had also 4 demigods residing. So here also at Manasatara mountain, we have the demigods also with their residence. On the east side, the city of Indra. On the south side, city of Yamaraj. And on the west side, the city of Varuna. And on the north side, the city of Soma. 10, the speed of the sun. When the sun travels from Devadani to Samyamani, it travels 23,775 million yojanas, 1/4 of its total orbit of 95.1 million yojanas, in a time of 15 gatikas, or 6 hours. 1 gatika is 24 minutes. Then 11, the sun travels through the demigod residences from Samyamani to Nimlochani to Vidbhavari to Devadani. Okay, so in the diagram you can see the different residences. So in this way, the sun is traveling. So when it's daytime, when it's midday at Devadani, it's going to be midnight at Nimlochani. And when it's sunrise at Samyamani, it's going to be sunset at Vibhavari. Right? It's going to be the opposite condition in each place. Just like on the planet, we see, if I'm in India and just now it's nighttime here, it's going to, if I say it's midnight here, then in Australia it's going to be sunrise just about. And going further around, if you go the other way, if you go west rather than east, if we go west, if we come from India, you go to London, then it would be sunset. And New York would maybe midnight. So the time's going to be, according to the different times and the positions on the planet, will be affected by the different movements of the sun. Something which we're all used to, the phenomena which we're all used to. So it's being described here in detail in the Srimad Bhagavatam, describing how the sun is moving and it's controlled ultimately. You see, because modern astrology, they say the sun is in the center of the universe and everything rotates around the sun. So how do the Vedas explain it? The Vedas explain that the pole star is in the center and everything that rotates around the pole star. And the sun is also rotating. The sun is also moving. And its movements will affect the different times of the day in different places. And that's why we get variations in the time and the day according to the year, and in the same way we get also seasons in the year due to the movements of the sun in relation to the different planets. It's important for us to appreciate the very intricate design which is here within the universe, which shows the sophisticated, the very high-level intelligence of the Supreme Lord in designing the universe. That he arranges these different periods of time throughout the year and throughout the day, which are very important for people living on the planets and for our life. That's why things like a Panchangi is very important. It's very important for us to know about the different times. When is the auspicious time and when's not a good time. And it's important for people to know when should the farmer plant, when is the rainy season coming, and when is the dry season coming. Everything is done for, the world is meant to be more agriculturally based. Most of the planet, in the past, for thousands and millions of years, the planet was based on agriculture and people lived in the countryside. It's only in recent years that people all moved to cities and factories and so on. But in the Vedic culture, everybody lived an agrarian lifestyle. They lived off the land, and for that, the different climatic conditions, the seasons and the times and so on, very important. So the Panchangi is a very valuable piece of material for everyone. Just like us as devotees, we need to know. Every year we have to have our Vaishnava calendar. When does Chaturmas begin? right? When is the Jagannath Snan Yatra? Must be coming up very soon, right? And we know by the time of Jagannath Snan Yatra and Rath Yatra, we're coming up to the rainy season. It's going to be rainy season. We're going to be really into the rainy season at that time. And so that's, by that time you want to have your land planted, you want to have your rice planted, you want to be prepared for the rainy season. You can't be doing a lot of work in the rainy season, not so easy. You want to have everything planted. And similarly, for social functions like marriages, there's auspicious times. When people want to marry, they want to marry at an auspicious time and take advantage of the different planets to get the blessings. And so all of these things are very important. And the Lord Krishna designs the universe in such a way that we can know all of these things. Bhagavad Gita also says, all right, chapter 16, at the end of chapter 16, it says that if one who doesn't follow the Shastras, then he will not achieve happiness or success or the supreme destination. Right? Na shastra vidimitsrijya vartate kamakarata na sasidim avapnoti na sukham na param gatim. But then the next verse says, if you follow, then you will get everything. Everything can be achieved by following the principles of Shastra. So this is very important. We want to understand the Shastras very carefully. And this information is given to us in the Shastras to tell us everything about the universe. Okay, let's see. Well, this is the rest of the chapter, talking about the worship of the sages, how the Valakilyas worship the sun god. The Valakilyas, each the size of a thumb, stay in front of the sun god and offer him eloquent prayers of glorification. 60,000 sages, of course, but they're only the size of a thumb. So, you know, we were dealing with very big people and huge mountains and very astronomical sizes, and now we've told 60,000 people, each the size of a thumb. Other sages, Gandharvas, Apsaras, Nagas, Yakshas, Rakshasas, and demigods form into groups of 2, 7, or 14, and assuming different names each month, continuously perform rituals to worship Surya Dev, who has many names. Speed of the sun god's chariot. In his orbit through Bhumandala, the sun god traverses a distance of 95.1 million yojanas at a speed of 2,000 yojanas and 2 kroshas in a moment. I don't know where to get these things from. This is Shastra. We have to accept, right? All right, so the orbit of the sun. The sun moves in orbit around the pole star, and it moves around the Manasatara mountain, how long is it going to take for the sun chariot to go around the Manasatara mountain? Anybody know? How long will it take for the sun god to go around Manasatara mountain? Remember, what was the distance? Manasatara mountain, the circumference of the Manasatara mountain, 95.1 million yojanas. Yes? How long does it take?
It takes 6 hours, Maharaj.
That's what it says, right? Yeah. 6 hours.
Maharaj, this 6 hours, it is as per humanly calculation or it's other time zone, Maharaj?
Well, when the sun travels from Devadani to Samyamani, it travels 1/4 of its total orbit. So that's only 1/4, 6 hours, you see? So it's the whole, the full circumference is going to take
24 hours.
24 hours.
24 hours.
1 day, right. 1 day. Yes.
But that's how it makes day and night for the demigods in 24 hours.
Sorry?
That's how it makes day and night for them in demigods, 12 hours day and 12 hours night.
Yes.
It takes 24 hours.
It's making day and night for the whole universe, for the heavenly planets, for Bhuvarloka, and for the Bhumandala also. Jambudweep, Bhumandala.
It will take 1 year, right?
Huh?
For the universe, it will take 1 year. It will be like 1 year.
For the for our planets, 1 year?
Yes, sir. For the Earth's planet, it will be like 1 year. And for the demigods, it will be like 1 day, 24 hours.
Well, of course, 1 day of the demigods is equal to 1 year for us. That is true. There's a difference there between the time scale for the demigods and the time for our own planet Earth. All right, so we're given this information about the daily movements of the sun. The sun, this Uttarayana and Dakshinayana, this is also very regulated, a very regulated program, right? We always have the Sankranti, Makar Sankranti, that comes in January. Makar Sankranti is the beginning of the Uttarayana, when the sun starts to move to the north. And then you have the, is it Karka? What's it called? The other Sankranti? I think it's Karka Sankranti, which comes in July. So there are these two periods, Uttarayana and Dakshinayana, very regulated, very systematic every year. The sun moving gradually, going south, and then at a certain point, when it comes to the Sankranti, then starts to come back, comes north again. And if you take a photograph of the sun every day at the same time, if you take a photograph of the sun every day at the same time, you'll see how over a year, the motion of the sun, how it makes a figure like an 8, like a figure 8, and you can see how the sun is moving as it comes every day. So Dhruva Maharaj is quite busy there. He's keeping all these planets going. This will go on for the whole day of Brahma. For the whole day of Lord Brahma. And Dhruva Maharaj, he's up there for one day of Brahma. And this every day it's like this. Every day there will be the Uttarayana, Dakshinayana, but of course they will come once in a year. In the period of a year, there will be one Uttarayana, one Dakshinayana. Uttarayana coming to the north, that's the Makar Sankranti, the beginning of the summer, and the days start to become longer. When we're here in Mayapur, we always feel the winter, it's quite cold for a while, and then Makar Sankranti comes and then you think, oh good, oh, the beginning of summer, the longer days, weather starts to improve a little bit, slowly, slowly. Now what about people who are on the North Pole or the South Pole? How will they be affected with sunlight? Can you imagine? Anybody?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maybe it will be like us when the sun is on south hemisphere, the north people will be having very short daytime and longer nights and cold weather, very cold temperature.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be cold.
South, they must be having longer days and heat and light. They have in abundance.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Am I correct, Maharaj?
Yes. That's a good guess. Actually, they tell us that when the sun is moving to the north, Uttarayana, at that time the North Pole will have 24 hours sunlight. And the South Pole will have 24 hours darkness. And when the sun is moving south, Dakshinayana, then the South Pole will have 24 hours sunlight. And the North Pole will have 24 hours darkness. But there's a special day, a special period, when it's called equinox. When the sun is like at the equator. So when the sun is at the equator, then
April 14th. April.
Yes? What?
April 14th, yeah.
Okay. So what happens at that time?
12 hours night and 12 hours day in the equatorial region.
Right. 12 hours nighttime, 12 hours day. Just like Singapore. You know, Singapore is almost on the equator. And if you look at their, if you look at their climate throughout the year, practically it doesn't change. From one month to another, it's about 12 hours sunlight every day. Practically it doesn't change because they're right there on the equator. So a little bit variations, but not a lot. But as you go north and as you go south, then you can see big variations. So the South Pole will have 24 hours darkness for 6 months. Then it will have one day when it will have some 12 hours light. And then the next day, then it will be 24 hours darkness. Like, and the same in the opposite ways for the North Pole. Changes like that. So this is the arrangement. Different people, according to their karma, are placed in these difficult situations, different physical conditions. Some places have more sunlight and some places have less. In Sumera Mountain, the people living up there on Sumera Mountain said they're always warm. It's like Singapore people, I guess, as of midday. So sometimes people, when they have sunshine all the time, they appreciate so much, you know, they like to see the snow. Oh, I want to see the snow. Anybody who comes from a cold place, they think, oh no, I just want to get away from the snow. Horrible, so cold. So I heard how in Dubai they built that place, what, artificial ski slope there, that people could come there and learn to ski. And sometimes people would go there, they would save up, and it's so expensive to go in there. And sometimes they'd go in there and they would spend about 10 or 15 minutes and then just come out and say, I never want to go there again. Because it's just so cold, it's so unbearable. So sunlight, very important, the heat and light. We were appreciating the importance of the sun planet, how it gives life for the whole universe. And with the help of the sun, then everything grows. And there is no sunlight, then nothing can grow. It's just so cold in the desert. Although they have sunlight in the desert, still nothing grows there also. And this is a cursed, these are cursed regions. All right, so let's see what else we've got. The daily movements of the sun, yeah, we talked about that. And how the sun god is worshipped. Certainly, we remember Lord Brahma's prayer, and he was Lord Brahma glorifies the sun god. The ladies recited the verse for us yesterday. We heard about the sun god. Yakchaksharesha savita sakala grahanam raja samasta suramurti rashesha teja Yashyaknaya Brahmati Sambarata Kala Chakro Govinda Madipurusham Tamaham Bhajamin. So Yashyaknaya Agnaya. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita it says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Agaya Guruhana Tarai Desh. By my order, become a guru and save the land, right? Lord Chaitanya told the Kurma Brahman, Yari Deki Tari Kaho Krishna Upadesh Amar Agaya Guru Hana Taraide. So in the Brahma Samhita is also saying that the order of Govinda is given to the sun god. Yashyagnaya Brahmati Sabharata Kala Chakro. That his order is to mount the wheel of time. That's the order Govinda to the sun god, that he should drive his chariot to mount the wheel of time. And this he does on the top of Manasotara mountain. So the sun god with his one-wheeled chariot is able to do this. All right, we'll go on to chapter 22 and have a look at what's here in this chapter. Overview. In this chapter, the orbits of the planets are described according to the movements of the moon and other planets. All the inhabitants of the universe are prone to auspicious and inauspicious situations. This is referred to as the influence of the stars. So you can understand something of what's going to come up in this chapter, the influence of the stars, a lot on astrology. Do we have any astrologers here? Are any of you experts in astrology? You do some astrology? You all believe in it, right? Before your marriage, did you check your charts? Make sure it was compatible?
Yes, Maharaj, we did, Maharaj.
Yeah, everybody does. That's wise. Yeah, that's a wise thing to do. That you gotta, if you don't do that, then you're asking for trouble. All right, so
Maharaj,
yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, out of humility, Jai Govind Prabhu is not telling, but Jai Govind Prabhu and Radha Madhav did some of the astrological course, Maharaj.
Oh, they did the astrological course, huh?
Did some of them.
Oh, very good. Oh, very nice. So you're very aware of all of these things then, the influence of the planets, how they influence everything. So the inhabitants of the universe are prone to auspicious and inauspicious situations. Yes, we are prone to these things. Auspicious, we like the auspicious, we like to do that, and we try to avoid the inauspicious. But, of course, we're not able to avoid. Just like just now, this last year or two has been very inauspicious. A lot of inauspicious things, a lot of bad things happening, very inauspicious things. And people are quite concerned. Okay, so we're prone to this. This is our karma. We're in this karma. We're in the field of karma, right? This is karma bhumi, and we have to expect these things. But we try to take shelter of devotional service. We're not so much interested in what's auspicious or inauspicious. We just want bhakti to Krishna. So 3 sections again: the movements and glories of the sun. Then movements and glories, oh, just a minute, go back. Movements and glories of the moon, and then description of the stars above the moon. The stars, that's the important thing, right? The influence of the stars. So, first of all, the movements and glories of the sun are being described for us. Oh, good, that's the wrong way. So the chapter begins with Maharaj Parikshit's question, because, we should actually go through the chapter. It would be better if we go through the chapter rather than spend time with this, because we didn't hear Maharaj Parikshit's question. But there's an important question there. Okay, I'm going back to the beginning of chapter 21. I don't want to go through this chapter too quickly, because we have to get it fully understood. We want to be clear about it. So Sukadeva Goswami said, the diameter of the universe, 4 billion miles. 50 crores of yojanas. That's the diameter of the universe. So he wants to hear about it. Sukadeva Goswami says, we can understand the upper part of the universe by understanding the lower part. He said, and he gives the example about the grain of wheat divided into two parts. You can estimate the size of the upper part by knowing the lower part. So expert geographers tell us we can understand the measurements of the upper part of the universe by knowing those of the lower part. So the sky between the earthly sphere and heavenly sphere is called Antariksha, or outer space. It adjoins the top of the sphere of earth and the bottom of that of heaven. And that is where the region of Bhuvarloka is also. Bhuvarloka is where you have people like the yakshas and the ghosts and all of these kinds of people residing. Alright, so then in the purport Prabhupada discusses about the movement of the sun. The sun's movement will determine the duration of the day and night. So we've covered that. And then Manasarata mountain, the abode of the 4 demigods, we heard about that. Diametrically opposite, the sunrise takes place, and one place where the sun's rising, the opposite side the sun is setting. Alright? And the entire Kala Chakra, the wheel of time, is established on the wheel of the sun god's chariot. So this is important to understand, that there's a wheel of time, the Kala Chakra. And we hear about the sun god and the 7 horses and the sages all worshipping the sun god, 14 Gandharvas, Apsaras, other demigods. Thus the sun god travels through the universe. 760,800,000 miles at a speed of 16,004 miles at every moment. High speed, huh? Sukadeva Goswami said, I have thus described the diameter of the universe, its general characteristics, according to the estimation of learned scholars. Then the example of the wheat, you can know the upper part by understanding the nature of the lower part. And he's applying that to the universe. In the midst of that outer space, the Antariksha, is the sun planet, the most opulent sun, the king of all the planets, the eye of the Lord, that emanates heat such as the moon. Oh, the king of all planets that emanate heat. There are 3 sources of heat, right? There is the sun planet, there is the moon planet, and there is also fire, Agni. So, Aditya, Chandra, and Agni. 3 sources of heat. The sun heats the universe, maintains its order, gives light to help all living entities see. We do hear that in the lower regions there are planets where it's darkness, there is no sunlight, but the demons there, they have jewels on their head by which they can see. So then they discuss about Dakshinayana and Uttarayana. And how this is all the arrangement of Govinda. The sun simply carries out the orders of Govinda. Prabhupada writes, we foolishly see the activities of material nature without understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead behind them, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Madhyakshena prakriti, material nature carries out the orders of the Lord, thus everything is maintained in an orderly way. So then Sukadeva Goswami discusses more about the duration of the day and night and how they increase and how the sun passes through the different signs of the zodiac. 5 signs of the zodiac, it will pass through 5 signs of the zodiac, and then will come to Cancer, and then gradually decreases. Day and night again become equal in Libra. So the signs of the zodiac, there are 12 signs of the zodiac. The sun passes through the 5 signs beginning with Vrishika or Scorpio. Then the duration of the day increases, and gradually it increases month after month until day and night become equal in Aries. Until the sun travels to the south, the days grow longer, and until it travels to the north, the nights grow longer. So we explained all this. So then Sukadeva Goswami gives some dimensions. The Manasotara mountain is in the form of a circle. Circumference 95,100,000 yojanas, or 760,800,000 miles. And then we hear about the different residencies of the demigods. How there are 4 demigods with their residencies in the 4 different sections of Manasotara mountain. Sunrise, midday, sunset, and midnight occur in all these places according to specific times, thus engaging all living entities in their various occupational duties, and also make them cease such duties. Supposed to make people cease such duties. Of course, nowadays people do things like work all night. We can understand how uncultured we have become. You know, before, when the world was agrarian, everyone was working in the daytime, and they could go home at night and sleep in the night. But now you've got many people, they work all night. They work all night. We had, when I remember in London, at our temple in London, there was a young man coming to Mongol Aarti. And I said, oh, it's very nice, you come to Mongol Aarti. He said, yeah, I'm just coming home from work. I said, where do you work? He said, I work in a casino. So he's in a casino the whole night. And then after working casino all night, he would come for Mongol Aarti. Not a very ideal life. But this is unfortunately the way of life for many people today. They have to work all night, but it's not meant to be like that. Krishna arranged day and night so that people could sleep in the night, and you get the better rest in the night. When you have to sleep in the daytime, it's not so good. You cannot get proper rest. I had the experience myself. I was working, when I was a student, I got a job in the summer holidays. I was working in a factory all night. And I'd come home in the daytime, I couldn't sleep. It was impossible, terrible. You may sleep a little, but it's not the same. So then it mentions about the people in Sumeru, they're always warm. The sun moves counterclockwise, facing the constellation with Sumeru mountain on its left. It also moves clockwise and appears to have the mountain on its right, because it is influenced by the Dakshin Avarta wind. So this is going to be the question which is brought up at the beginning of the next chapter. Maharaj Parikshit wants to understand, how can it be that the Sumeru mountain is in one place it's on the left and another time it's on the right? How is it possible that the sun is always moving counterclockwise, that in one place it's on the left and then it also appears on the right? So this is like a contradiction. Anyway, Sukadeva Goswami continues, people living in countries at points diametrically opposite to where the sun is first seen rising will see the sun setting. The sun is first seen rising when the sun is first seen rising, we'll see the sun setting. And if a straight line were drawn from a point where the sun is at midday, the people in the countries at the opposite end of the line will be experiencing midnight. Right, we know that when it's midnight in Australia, then in London it's going to be midday practically. And when it's midnight in London, it will be midday in Australia. So people residing where the sun is setting were to go to countries diametrically opposite, they would not see the sun in the same condition. It's very confusing for the body when you have to travel these big distances and adjust to different climates. Some people, they will take 3 days. They will not do anything for 3 days after coming to another side of the planet, because it's such a big change in the time and in the atmosphere and in the conditions. Everything is just so different. The body cannot adjust immediately. You have to be very careful. People who travel back and forth across the Atlantic or the Pacific, they very quickly get health problems. It's a very deteriorating activity. It really takes away your health. Even sportsmen who travel like that, they get problems. They can't do it for long. So then we hear the distances. The sun travels to the different places. The 4 residencies of the demigods. And Prabhupada's purport, he quotes that verse you told me from the 10th chapter, Nakshatraram aham shashi, of stars I am the moon. And Prabhupada said this indicates the moon is similar to other stars. Within this universe there is one sun, which is moving. The Western theory that all the luminaries in the sky are different suns is not confirmed in the Vedic literature. Nor can we assume that these luminaries are the suns of other universes, for each universe is covered by various layers of material elements. Therefore, although the universes are clustered together, we cannot see from one universe to another. Right? We're covered. We're like the chicken in the egg. You can't see outside the egg until you break the egg. You want to get out of the universe, you have to go through the coverings of the universe. We were telling about Krishna taking Arjuna to go to Mahavishnu. He had to go through the darkness. And then he had to go through the coverings of the universe. Then he got to the causal ocean. And at one point it was so dark, Krishna had to fight. Even his own horses were frightened by the darkness. And Lord Krishna had to fire the Sudarshan Chakra to make a hole in the darkness and to brighten, to bring some light into the place. So in each universe is one Brahma, and there are other demigods on other planets, but there is only one sun. And the sun god is called Traimaya, and worshipped by the words Om Bhu Bhuvaswa. So some features of the sun god. And it said actually not only does the sun god have a chariot, each of the planets actually they're on a chariot. So when they're moving, you know, these planets, they're also on their chariot. The moon god, he also has a chariot, and you know, it's a way to travel, these demigods. You know, they don't have cars, they have their chariots, and very special chariots. And when Arjuna was going to the heavenly planets, he saw all the chariots. He saw beautiful chariots. How these different demigods, sometimes the people who were killed in battle, the men who died in battle, they also have, they're given a chariot in the heavenly planets. You know, they go to the higher planets and they're given a chariot and they're driving their chariot from one planet to another. They don't have to take Air India or whatever you fly on, you know, Emirates or anything. They have the chariots to go on. And then the unique feature of the sun god's chariot, one wheel. So Samvatsara, the wheel of time, the Kala Chakra. And this wheel of time is described, the Kala Chakra is described, 12 spokes representing the 12 months. And then there are 6 sections of the rim. The wheel is built in pieces, and there are 6 sections of that rim, and this represents the 6 seasons. And then there are 3 hubs representing the 3 Chaturmasya period. The 3 periods, the 12 months are divided into 4-month periods each. So that's by the 3 hubs. One side of the axle carrying the wheel rests upon the summit of Mount Sumeru, and the other rests upon Manasotara mountain. Not exactly on the mountain, but on the cushion of wind or special air which is arranged by the Lord to provide for the proper travel of the sun god as he goes around Manasotara mountain. And the example is given just like the oil pressing machine. So that oil pressing machine is described. Nowadays they still have oil pressing machines. They've been automated, of course. In the past it used to be they'd have a bowl, and still some places they'll use the bowl, but very convenient system to grind the grains or to grind the different seeds to produce the oil. And the same principle is used in arranging for the sun god to go. I don't know who copied who. We must have copied the arrangement from the Lord himself. It's Krishna's design. Anyway, the same principle is used in the oil pressing machine. First axle is attached to a second axle, which is 1/4 as long. And the upper end of the second axle is attached to Dhruvaloka by a rope of wind. Everything is so mystical, huh? The ropes of wind. Then we're told about the carriage of the sun god, 3,600,000 yojanas long and 1/4 as wide. And the chariot's 7 horses are named after the different meters of Vedic mantras. One is called Gayatri. So this chariot continuously carries the sun god. So the sun god's very dedicated. You can imagine it spends his whole time just going around, mounting the wheel of time, from the beginning of the day of Brahma to the end of the day of Brahma. The night of Brahma, I wonder if he must still be going around, maybe in the night of Brahma, because in the night of Brahma is only a partial annihilation. But it particularly mentions about the day of Brahma, from the day of Brahma, the beginning of Brahma's day to the end of Brahma's day. The 7 horses. And Arunadev is driving the horses, but he doesn't look in front. I don't know what kind of driver he is, but he doesn't look ahead, he looks behind, because he likes to see the sun god. And so he looks back to see the sun god. And then the Valakilyas are described, offering their prayers, and then the other different people who have come. Mostly they're all from higher planets, Gandharvas, Apsaras, Nagas, Yakshas, Rakshasas, and demigods. They've all come to encourage and to praise, to worship the Supreme Lord, who has come in the form of his most powerful demigod, Surya Dev. So their activities are described. Worshipping the most powerful demigod Surya, the Gandharvas sing in front of him, the Apsaras dance before the chariot, Nisacharas follow the chariot, Pananagas decorate the chariot, the Yakshas guard the chariot, and the saints, called the Valakilyas, surround the sun god and offer prayers. So very nice how they're all given their particular services according to their nature and according to their propensities. The 7 groups of 14 associates arrange the proper times for regular snow, heat, and rain throughout the universe. So they also seem to have these demigods, they also have some power. They have some say in the particular conditions, the climate which is put onto the different places. All right, so then coming to chapter 22, Maharaj Parikshit has his question that he wants to know. He said, how could it be that the sun god's traveling around Dhruvaloka with both Dhruvaloka and Mount Sumeru on his right, but at the same time it's on his left? So it appears to be contradictory. How can we accept this? So this is nicely answered. Sukadeva Goswami clearly answered. He gives an example about the potter's wheel, how it's moving, and small ants located on that big wheel moving with it. One can see that their motion is different from that of the wheel. So the wheel's moving, the ants, they're also moving independently. But at the same time, because they're on the wheel, they're also moving with the wheel, but they have their own motion. So they appear sometimes on one part of the wheel and sometimes on another. Similarly, the signs and constellations with Sumeru and Dhruvaloka on the right move with the wheel of time, and the ant-like sun and other planets move with them. So the sun is compared to an ant. The sun planet compared to an ant. And the wheel of time is like the potter's wheel. The sun and planets, however, are seen in different signs and constellations at different times. This indicates that their motion is different from that of the zodiac and the wheel of time itself. So the zodiac and the wheel of time. The zodiac is along with the wheel of time, and also you have the nakshatras also along with the zodiac. They're also going with the wheel of time. So this example can be understood about the ants on the wheel, potter's wheel. The potter's wheel is turning, and the ants are on the wheel, so they're also turning with the wheel. But at the same time, the ants are also walking their own way. They're walking in a particular place, they want to go somewhere, and they're not conscious so much that they're moving. So in this way, it's understood how Sumeru and Dhruvaloka can be on both sides. Sukadeva Goswami continues in text number 3. The original cause of the cosmic manifestation is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When great saintly persons fully aware of the Vedic knowledge offered prayers to the Supreme Lord, he descended to this material world in the form of the sun to benefit all the plants and purify fruitive activities. He divided himself into 12 parts and created seasonal forms, beginning with spring. In this way, he created the seasonal qualities, such as heat, cold, and so on. So the Lord himself comes in the form of the sun. And the wheel of time, the Kala Chakra, that is also the Lord. We know from the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna is describing the universal form, then Lord Krishna says, "Time I am, destroyer of the world, and I come to claim all people." So Kalis mean this Kala, time, this is Krishna. Krishna is time, and this wheel of time is one of Krishna's forms. And he comes to claim all of us by the influence of time. So he divides himself into 12 parts. The 12 months, or the wheel is divided into the 12 spokes on the wheel, then the 12 zodiac signs, 12 months in the year, and the created seasonal forms. So all of these things, this is all part of Lord Krishna's creation. Then Lord Krishna, Sukadeva Goswami continues, according to the system of 4 varnas and 4 ashrams, people generally worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, who is situated as the sun god. With great faith, they worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the Supersoul, according to ritualistic ceremonies handed down in 3 Vedas, such as Agnihotra, similar higher and lower fruit of acts, and according to the process of mystic yoga. In this way, they very easily attain the ultimate goal of life. Of course, there are a class of people who think the sun god is the Supreme Lord, because heat is the cause of everything. We said that life comes from the sun. Without sun, there can be no life. One of the names of the sun god was Martananda. Martanda, was it? And meaning death, the dead egg. The earth, the whole universe was like a dead egg. Bhumandala was dead without the sun. There could be no life. No life was able to exist without the sun. The demigods don't come to enjoy swarga, heaven on earth there without sun. There has to be some good sunshine. Just like we see people travel everywhere on the planet to find the sun. I see so many Russians. The Russians, they would come out of Russia every year to go to countries like Thailand or Vietnam just to get the sun, because it's so cold in Russia and so dark in the winter and no sun. So people like the sun. And some people think the sun is God, and they will worship the sun as God. But the sun is simply a servant of the Lord, right? We all know that. He's empowered to do this service. And Lord Brahma has reminded us of the position of the sun god. So, some people perform these different Vedic ceremonies, Agnihotri, mystic yoga. They want to get some result. With great faith, they perform their worship. And Sukadeva Goswami said, in this way they very easily attain the ultimate goal of life. Samadhi Gachanti, the ultimate goal of life, Samadhi. Text number 5, the sun god who is Narayana or Vishnu, the soul of all the worlds, is situated in outer space between the upper and lower portions of the universe. Oh wait, I want to let you hear this. There's something, maybe you can listen to this. This is Dhanavir Goswami talking something about the universe. I think it would be good to finish with this.
As in a house, electricity regulates coolness, heat, light, sound, etc. So the sun...
Can you see it?
Yes, Maharaj.
You can see.
You can see it? Okay, okay.
Rays control heat and cold, day and night, summer and winter, darkness and light throughout the universe. The Vedic geocentric model explains how the sun moves around the pole star situated vertically above Earth's north pole. As the sun goes around the Earth globe, we experience day and night. The stationary Earth, unlike the pole star, does not revolve on its own axis, though it is slightly tilted toward the pole star. During summer in the northern hemisphere, the North Pole experiences 6 months of daylight. Conversely, during summer in the southern hemisphere, the South Pole experiences 6 months of daylight. These 6-month periods correspond to a day and night for the demigods living in the heavenly planetary system. Vedic cosmology accounts for this phenomena by the vertical motion of the sun, technically called Uttarayana and Dakshinayana. The sun moves upward on an incline for half a year, and then downward for the next half. This motion produces two effects on Earth, namely the changing of the seasons and the varying durations of day and night. Ordinary vision sees the sun to be a mere globe of fire. However, celestial vision reveals a personality residing over the sun. His name is Vivasvan, and he rides on a golden chariot pulled by 7 divine horses at a speed of 16,000 miles per second. The chariot has one wheel which moves on celestial Manasotra mountain. The horizontal shaft is linked to the axial hub of the universe, Mount Meru, and the diagonal shaft is linked to the pole star. With each circular path, the wheel gradually moves laterally inward for 6 months and then outward for 6 months. Similar to the chariot's vertical motion, this lateral action fine-tunes seasonal changes on Earth. When the orbital motion of the sun is viewed from above, its illumination is seen to extend out to half of the greater Earth plane. During its orbit, the sun passes over the 4 cities situated in the 4 cardinal directions. The city over which the sun is passing experiences noon, and the city in the opposite direction experiences midnight. The 2 other cities experience sunrise and sunset. The zodiac is a conceptual celestial plate encompassing the entire sky. Like the face of a clock, the zodiac is divided into 12 divisions of 30 degrees each, called signs of the zodiac, or rashis. Each named according to the constellation of stars residing within them. These signs serve as a set of reference markers for measuring the movements of the moon, sun, and the planets. The zodiac completes one clockwise revolution of 360 degrees in every 24-hour period. The moon travels through the zodiac, but due to its slower angular velocity, it completes only about 347 degrees in 24 hours, falling behind by about 13 degrees. The day after the new moon day, we see one moon phase. The next day, the moon again completes 347 degrees, and we see the moon in its second phase. In this way, the moon appears to travel in the opposite direction through the zodiac. This is also called retrograde motion. Thus, the phases of the moon increase each day for 15 days until the full moon. Then the moon's phases decrease gradually by 1 phase each day until the dark moon night. The Srimad Bhagavatam describes the vertical positions of the planetary orbits. First above the Earth plane is the Sun at a height of 0.8 million miles. Next higher comes the Moon at 1.6 million miles, followed by the Nakshatras, 28 stars, at twice the height, then Venus, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Saptarishi constellation, and then finally the pole star at a height of 30.4 million miles. Although the Sun is 0.8 million miles above the Earth plane, its horizontal distance from the Earth is much greater. Although varying with the seasons, the mean Earth-Sun distance works out to be approximately 100 million miles. 80,000 miles below the Sun is a dark or invisible planet named Rahu. When this planet comes between Earth and the Sun on the new moon day, or Amavasya, while the moon is in the same conjunction or straight line, a solar eclipse takes place. The eclipse is full for those on Earth who are situated in line with the conjunction, while others may see it partially. Similarly, when Rahu comes between the Earth and the moon on the full moon day, or Purnima, while the Sun is in the same conjunction, a lunar eclipse takes place. This is seen by anyone on Earth who can see the moon. The eclipse is either full or partial depending on the movement of Rahu. At least 5,000 years ago, the Vedas were able to predict eclipses precisely. This science is still used today with the same extraordinary accuracy.
Okay. Did you like that?
Very exciting.
Sorry?
Yes, Maharaj.
It was very exciting, Maharaj.
Yeah, very exciting, right? Yeah. I thought it would be good for you. Finish off. Okay.
Maharaj, we saw in Kannada also, in Kannada language they written Surya Grahana.
In Kannada language, there's what?
Yeah, Maharaj, that Surya Grahana, Chandra Grahana, they're written. I saw that.
Oh, really? Oh, good.
Yeah. Maharaj, you mentioned, Maharaj, that Sri Vaishnava saint, he got the rabbit shaped, that he depicted that picture, the drawing.
Yes. Oh. He was a Kannada saint, was it?
Yes, Maharaj. He's from Melkote.
Oh, from Melkote, yeah.
Hare Krishna, Jagat Prabhu, may I know the name of the person? From Melkote.
I'm not remembering, Mataji. I'll share. I have that reference. I will share with you.
Thank you.
Okay, so any questions? Anything?
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, this part I'm still not very able to clearly understand. The Bhumandala, whether it is spherical or it's only just circular.
Bhumandala is not spherical, it's plane.
It's plane, so it's like a circular disc.
Yes.
And when we say the planet Earth, especially the video which was showing with the sun's movement and the dark and the brightness on one side, it was being depicted as though it's like a globe.
Yes.
So what is that which is actually a globe?
Well, that's the Earth planet. The Earth is a part of Bhumandala. It's not Bhumandala itself, right? Bhumandala is much more than just the planet Earth.
So this planet Earth, you say that it is spherical, and so it doesn't move. It is stationary, or it does also move.
The Earth planet, it moves around the pole star.
So then, Earth planet is in the Bhumandala. So like Earth planet, there must be millions of other planets also scattered, and if they are moving around the pole star is much above. So what does that mean, moving around pole star?
Well, Prabhupada says it's like a chandelier. You know, you have the chandelier suspended from the ceiling, and there are many different things in the chandelier. And so there's different planets also, and if you have the chandelier rotating, so the universe is something like that. It's like a big chandelier with different planets all moving around, but the pole star is in the center.
But this is part of the luminaries, Maharaj. But Bhumandala and the Bhu, especially the Earth, is on the Bhumandala, which is the Bhumandala is itself not moving. It is stationary, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not exactly on the Bhumandala, right? It's exact. Well, of course, yeah, it must be there on the Bhumandala, but it's within the universe. Now, of course, our theory is, he said, Dhanavir Maharaj said also, our geocentric theory, right? That geocentric means
Earth as the center.
Earth in the center, right. So
here, Earth in the center.
So some things are certainly rotating around there, around the Earth. Like the sun is mentioned like that.
Yeah, so this concept is not pretty clear, especially to say, and that
How
raises a lot of...
How to understand the earth, the movement of the earth in relation to the sun.
Yes.
I'll think about it.
Okay, Maharaj, thank you.
The temple of the Vedic planetarium, when that comes out, that will help to make everything clear to everyone, because everything will be shown there in detail, all the different planets and how they move and everything, and the Bhumandala and how it's supported.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Krishna as well. You had said, can you hear me? I hope you can.
What?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah,
I
okay.
hope you can hear.
Yeah.
Okay. My question is that you had said that Dhruv Maharaj, he lowers the sun and he picks up the sun every 180 days, right? Above and below the equator kind of thing. That causes the differences in the seasons, right?
Yes.
So, but we know that Dhruv Maharaj wasn't always there on Dhruvaloka. So, what was happening before Dhruv Maharaj was allocated this specific job?
Well, it was all going on by the arrangement of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is there. You remember that planet, it's the residence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he himself arranged for this planet, Dhruvaloka, or the pole star, and he's there in charge, so certainly he can arrange for somebody to do this thing.
Okay. All right.
Whether it's described there that Dhruva Maharaj is doing it, with pulling some ropes there, some mystical ropes of wind or air which are there, but it can also be done simply by the mystic potency of the Supreme Lord. Or he can assign somebody else to do it. For this day of Brahma, of course, Dhruva's there only for this one day of Brahma. But in his absence, it must have also been going on. Somebody else must have been doing the service. Just like when Yamaraj got cursed, he had to give up being Yamaraj. Somebody took over his duty. Aryama came and took over his service. And so, there's so many other demigods, there's so many people there, living entities, they can all be empowered to take on that service.
Maharaj, one question even I have. Is the only one sun planet, sun god, Vivaswan, who is illuminating all the upper planetary system, and there is no sun below the earth? Is it right, Maharaj?
Is there no sun below where?
No sun below earth. That's what, it's all dark.
No sun below Bhumandala. Below Bhumandala there's no sun, right? You go into these lower regions, the subterranean heavenly planets, there's no sun, right?
And above all, only one sun is there? And
yes.
Who is illuminating all the other upper planets?
Yes.
Okay.
Om Bhur Bhuva Swa, right? The sun god is giving light to all these regions. Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, Swargaloka. They're all getting the light from the one sun. So one sun in the universe, Prabhupada said clearly. As far as the earth and how it's moving, we'll look into it, see what information I can find on it. But certainly it's described to be global, to be spherical. That was mentioned. It's always shown as a sphere.
Yes, Maharaj, it is shown as a sphere by the modern day conceptions, but there is really no clear concept of that as a globe, which is referring to what we say as the Bharata Khanda, which refers to the earth in any of the scriptures, as I understand. If you have some references to that, please share it, Maharaj.
For the Bharata Khanda?
Yes, because what we are now trying to say as earth is the Bharata Khanda. Bharata Varsha is not spherical. Bharata Varsha is a...
Yeah, but Bharata Varsha is that division, yeah, the southern end there of Jambudweep.
So that is flatter area. But whereas Bharata Khanda is what we are referring to, the kind of a concept of earth. It's really very not clearly integrated. And though we are trying to show the movement of the sun on the top of and reflections of that on the earth, we are always trying to show this as a spherical form, and that's referred to the North Pole and the South Pole. So the question of North and South Pole comes only when there is a concept of spherical aspect of it. If not, there is no question of any of these North and South Poles coming in. It's in the North and Southern directions can be acceptable, but not the pole directions. So that's something also is required to be understood correctly.
Okay. So we'll think about it, see if we can find any information on that.
Maharaj, in accordance to that, I remember earlier you had mentioned that about the diametrically opposite thing, where like if it's midday somewhere else and then it'll be midnight elsewhere. So that would suggest that we are on a globe. But I would, from what I've understood, is that Bhumandala itself is like a flat plane, and then we're somewhere in Bharata Khanda, which is in Bharat Varsha, and as a planet, we're situated over there. Would that be a much more correct understanding?
What was the last part you said just before? We're in Bharata Khanda, and then?
Okay. So we're in Bharat. So Bharata Khanda is located in Bharat Varsha, and we're as a planet, as the Earth planet itself, we would be situated within Bharata Khanda, right?
Yes.
So I'm assuming, because earlier that you had mentioned that we're about the diametrically opposite factor, where if it's midday somewhere, diametrically opposite, it would be midnight, right?
Yeah.
With London and Australia. So I'm assuming that we are on an Earth planet in accordance to this fact. But as a planet, we're situated on Jambudweepa in Bharata Khanda. Would that be much more reasonable to assume?
Yeah, no, that's what you say is correct. Yeah. Yeah, we're in Jambudweep on Bharata Khanda. We're in Bhumandala on Jambudweep and Bharata Vars and Bharata Khanda in India.
All right. Thank you.
And when they chant samskar mantras, when they do samskars, then they will recite all of this, because in the course of making the samskar offering, they have to give detailed information about everything, where they actually are, and the mantra will go like that, will describe like that Bhumandala, Jambudweep, Bharata Varsha, Bharata Khanda, India, and even what village, what house, everything. That's it. That's a proper way to make the samskar.
All right. Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thanks for
Maharaj?
Yes?
There are two questions, Maharaj, quick questions, I can answer them. Does sun god always sit in his chariot and keeps driving the chariet? He doesn't get rest to his loka?
Well,
there's one question by one devotee.
That's what it said. It said the sun god's always driving his chariot. He's always doing. I don't. It's difficult for us to understand, but he must be very dedicated to his service. But when you have a service like that, you have to really be steady in it, right? We cannot really understand also the nature of time. How do they perceive time? How do we perceive time? It's on a different level. We know that 1 year, one day of demigod time is 1 year here. So the time for the sun god there driving the chariot around the wheel of time, we cannot begin to understand what time we're talking about. We simply have to accept these words of the Shastras. We don't have the qualification really to fully understand, but we are told that's what he's doing. He does this constantly. He's driving that chariot.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, one last question, Maharaj. This is from Malini. Hare Krishna Maharaj, does it mean that wind god controls the sun god as the wind of rope pulls or loosens the sun?
Well, it means that the wind god is also engaged in some kind of service for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Remember, the sun god is also performing the sun god is actually empowered by the Supreme Lord to do this particular service. The sun god himself is Surya Narayan. He's the Supreme Lord himself coming in the form of the sun god. And similarly, the wind god can also arrange for the wind to facilitate the service of the Supreme Lord in the affairs of the universe. There's perfect harmony among the demigods. They're all in the mood of working in cooperation for the Supreme Lord. So the wind god, if the wind god is required at all, but I would imagine it all simply arranged by the mystic potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Simply by the desire of the Supreme Lord it can be arranged.
Yeah, thank you very much, Maharaj. Maharaj, one last question by Kavirupa Mataji. Mataji, you can ask quickly, one short question.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam. It's really wonderful to know about our Vedic cosmology. Nicely, beautifully you have explained. I have one question. Heavenly planets like Swargaloka, Bhurloka and all you mentioned, and also this the planets like Jupiter, Mars and all. Is it how is it been arranged, Master? The Bhurloka, because my understanding with the picture is above the Meru mountain is all the heavenly planets. Am I right, Maharaj?
Meru mountain is on Bhumandala. It's in Jambudweep on Bhumandala. Now the heavenly planets are above Bhumandala.
Okay. It is above Meru mountain also, or how can we understand, Maharaj? Like
yes.
The pictures.
Yeah, from the pictures, right? Remember those pictures? We were showing that picture. Where is it?
Yes, Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah. So in the picture, the Meru mountain is in Bhumandala, and above Bhumandala is the heavenly. Above Bhumandala, first of all, we have Bhuvaloka. And above Bhuvaloka, then you come to the heavenly planets.
Okay, all the planets are like, as per the pictures, it is above that.
Yes.
The planets, everything is below that.
Right.
So, what is there in those lokas, Maharaj? Like Satya Loka, like only the demigods are there. What is happening in those lokas? Like,
in such
because I can understand this Meru.
you can get information, it's all described in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. If you read the second half of the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, you get the information about Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka and Satyaloka. Described, because they describe the travel of a Gop Kumar. He's a cowherd boy from Govardhan, he has a mantra, and his mantra takes him to these different places. So you hear about Mahaloka and Janaloka, they're doing Vedic sacrifice. And on Tapaloka, the 4 Kumaras are there, and they're engaged in meditation, sitting and you're meditating. And then in Satyaloka, Brahmaloka, then the Yagna Purusha's there. Oh, no, maybe that's in Mahaloka. The Yagna Purusha's there in Mahaloka or Tapaloka, and he accepts the offering, he personally accepts the offerings when they make them. It's all described. Sometimes since I read it now, I don't remember so well now exactly what's happening on Satyaloka. But Lord Brahma is there, and all the many devotees, but they're engaged in devotional service. And they're waiting for the end of the universe. They're waiting for the end of the lifetime of Brahma. And they're hoping they can go back to Godhead.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you very much. Hari Bol. Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Pranam, Maharaj.
Okay, so we'll stop here tonight. Thank you very much. We'll meet again on Thursday night. Hare Krishna.
Yes, ma'am.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Go back to
Yes, Bhakti Vigna Vinashakam.
Hare Krishna.